When silence is broken, the world listens. Maria Elena Bergoglio, the last surviving sibling of Pope Francis, has quietly lived in the shadows, steadfastly avoiding the spotlight her brother's rise has cast. While she allowed her brother, the spiritual leader of more than 1 billion Catholics, to lead the Church without interference, Maria Elena's recent reflections have shed light on an inspiring story of faith, sacrifice, and the hidden challenges of their family's shared journey. These revelations bring a deeply human perspective to the rise of one of the most powerful figures in the Church. Maria Elena was born in 1948 as the youngest of 5 siblings in Buenos Aires, Argentina, into a devout Catholic household that instilled faith and resilience into each member. Their father, Mario Bergoglio, had fled Italy in 1929 to escape Benito Mussolini's fascist regime, seeking a better life in Argentina with his wife Regina and their children. The Bergoglios arrived in Buenos Aires with little more than hope and determination. Life was far from easy. Mario worked tirelessly as an accountant for the railways while Regina kept their household running and nurtured her children. They faced hardships, but as Maria Elena recalled, "We weren't rich, but we had love. My mother taught us humility, and my father taught us the value of integrity." Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the future Pope Francis, was born in 1936 and stood out early as a beacon of compassion and leadership. Maria Elena shared memories of his selfless nature, his ability to listen to others, and his protective instincts toward his siblings, especially after their father's untimely passing. In the wake of this tragedy, young Jorge took on additional jobs to help support the family, always reassuring them with the words, "God will provide." His unwavering faith became the anchor for his grieving family. Even as a teenager, Jorge exhibited remarkable devotion to his faith, carrying a small Bible wherever he went and participating in activities that revealed his burgeoning spirituality. Although he briefly pursued an interest in chemistry and even worked as a chemist, his calling was undeniable. Maria Elena reflected on his transformation, saying, "He wasn't like all the other children. His love for God was unique, and we could all sense that he was destined for something greater." The Bergoglio family's Italian roots also played a significant role in shaping Jorge's values. Regina often reminded her children of their heritage, and this instilled a profound empathy for immigrants and the impoverished. These early lessons became the foundation for Pope Francis' lifelong commitment to social justice, equality, and serving the marginalized. Maria Elena's life, too, was deeply influenced by Jorge's decision to join the seminary at age 21. His choice marked a transformative moment for the family as they understood the immense sacrifices it entailed. Not only would they lose their eldest brother to the Church, but as the only surviving son, Jorge's path meant the end of the Bergoglio name. For Maria Elena, it was both a moment of profound pride and emotional loss. "We knew he was choosing a path that would take him away from us," she said, "but we also knew that it was God's will." Over the years, Jorge's faith and leadership carried him through the priesthood, episcopacy, and eventually to the papacy. Maria Elena, now married to Adolfo Vasaspel, raised her 2 sons in Ituzaingó, Argentina, maintaining close familial bonds despite Jorge's rising responsibilities within the Church. One of her sons was named Jorge in honor of his uncle. Despite the physical distance, Maria Elena has often expressed pride in her brother's work, particularly his unwavering dedication to social justice, environmental causes, and the defense of the marginalized. Reflecting on their upbringing, Maria Elena often emphasizes the role their parents played in shaping Jorge's mission. "My mother taught us humility, and my father taught us perseverance," she said. These values were the bedrock of their family's resilience during periods of economic instability and personal loss. Jorge's unique ability to embody those principles has resonated globally, making him a transformative figure in the Church. As Maria Elena recounts her brother's journey, her words are filled with admiration and reverence for the man the world now knows as Pope Francis. Yet, through her lens, he remains simply Jorge, the devoted brother who shouldered the burdens of his family with unwavering faith. Her story reminds the world that behind one of the most revered leaders of modern times lies a humble and enduring family bond, deeply rooted in love, sacrifice, and an unyielding trust in God's plan. Maria Elena fondly remembers the moment her brother Jorge confided in her about his decision to join the priesthood. With a sense of deep conviction, he said, "Maria, I feel called to something greater than myself. It's not about leaving you all behind. It's about serving a higher purpose." While his decision to follow this path was bittersweet for their family, they all understood that it was not a choice made lightly. Though it would mean fewer moments with their beloved brother, his family gathered around him to offer their unshakable support, knowing his heart was true. For their mother, Regina, the news stirred mixed emotions. A devout Catholic, she was proud of Jorge's calling, but at the same time, she feared the emotional and physical distance that would grow between them. Maria Elena, recalling her mother's reaction, explains, "Mama was supportive, but I think she cried in private. She knew his path would be lonely and difficult, and his responsibilities would pull him away from us." This poignant reality brought a deep sense of longing to their family. When Jorge entered the seminary, Maria Elena openly shared how much they missed him. Despite the physical absence, his letters always reminded them that he carried them in his heart. His messages offered reassurance and an emotional connection that softened the sorrow. Maria Elena, looking back, recalls with love how her brother's early years shaped his leadership and the unique way he connected with people. No matter who they were, whether the neighbor next door or a person in need, Jorge treated everyone like family. This quality in him, she believes, contributed to his deep popularity, especially after becoming Pope in 2013. Jorge always had the ability to connect with people. That's why he's loved so much as Pope, she says. Although Maria Elena felt immense pride for her brother's extraordinary achievement, it also brought profound challenges for their family, especially with the increasing media attention and pressure that came with his global role. She admits that it was sometimes overwhelming and felt more like a public trial for their family than an opportunity for joy. Before Jorge became Pope, Maria Elena cherished the sibling bond they shared, but after his election, things inevitably began to change. The distance between them grew, not just physically, but emotionally, and their once close relationship adjusted to fit a new reality. The challenges of maintaining any semblance of normal communication became apparent. As the youngest sibling, Maria Elena often reflected on her memories of simpler times, moments filled with laughter and protection from her older brother. She recalls with affection, "Jorge was my protector. He'd always help me with work or tell me stories to make me laugh." His absence created an emotional void in her life, one that letters alone could not fill. Still, Maria Elena understood the higher calling that her brother had embraced. The world needed the fatherly protection, care, and compassion that he now offered as Pope. While at times she wished that he had not been elected as Pope, feeling as though she had lost her brother to the world, she never questioned his calling, believing that he was always doing exactly what he was meant to do. Maria Elena, the one family member left to quietly observe from the shadows, took up a stance of silent support. With her family all gone and her brother now immersed in the weight of his global leadership, she observed Jorge's increasing isolation, but remained fiercely protective of him. Despite being less visible, she never doubted his mission or allowed herself to get consumed by the public's increasing scrutiny. As rumors about Jorge's past and his supposed complicity during Argentina's brutal military dictatorship surfaced, Maria Elena stood firm, defending her brother from the allegations. These accusations revolved around his actions, or lack thereof, during the dark period of Argentina's military junta in the 1970s, where human rights violations and atrocities were rampant. Critics claimed Jorge had either failed to oppose the regime's brutalities or, worse, had been complicit in them. Maria Elena rejected these allegations with a fervor that reflected her deep conviction. "Our family fled Italy because our father opposed fascism. Jorge would never let our parents down," she affirmed to interviewers. For Maria Elena, these allegations against her brother were not just unfair, they were deeply painful and utterly unjust. She recalled how, despite criticism, Jorge's silence was never an indication of complicity, but rather a tactical and intentional measure aimed at protecting others. As a Jesuit leader, Jorge worked behind the scenes to shield the vulnerable, including clergy members, and protect them from harm. Maria Elena recalled how he tried to shelter his clergy, knowing that public defiance could potentially endanger even more lives. Instead of speaking out, Jorge focused his energy on saving people in danger, quietly negotiating their release or ensuring they were able to escape the horrors of the regime. One highly publicized incident involved two Jesuit priests, Orlando Yorio and Francisco Jalix, who were captured and tortured. Critics attacked Jorge for not intervening directly, yet Maria Elena offered a different perspective. People don't understand the risks he took. He helped many escape the regime but never talked about it. That's the kind of man he is. Maria Elena went on to clarify that Jorge didn't see his actions as an opportunity for recognition, nor did he boast about any heroism. His work, she emphasized, was about doing what needed to be done, regardless of the lack of applause. When journalists uncovered additional evidence of Jorge's involvement in saving lives, such as issuing documents that helped individuals flee the country, Maria Elena noted Jorge wasn't someone who boasted about his heroism. He simply did what needed to be done. Through all of this, Maria Elena observed that the media focused far more on sensationalized rumors and false stories than on the truth, letting baseless allegations taint public perception of a man whose actions were based on a deep sense of duty, compassion, and conscience. For years, Maria Elena also found herself responding to stories in the media that suggested her brother joined the priesthood because of a failed romance. Some believed that Jorge's heart had been broken by a young woman, leading him to abandon the idea of marriage for a life of religious devotion. These rumors struck Maria Elena as completely false and highly reductive. Jorge, she clarified, did not enter the priesthood because of heartbreak. He was already deeply drawn to a higher calling, even long before these alleged romantic experiences. It's completely false, she insisted. His calling came long before any supposed romance. He felt the pull of faith as a teenager. It had nothing to do with heartbreak. As time passed, these ongoing rumors, which would take root in public discourse, distressed Maria Elena. To reduce her brother's profound spiritual commitment to something as trivial as youthful disappointment seemed almost disrespectful. She highlighted how these misleading narratives detracted from the true depth of Jorge's lifelong dedication to serving humanity, affirming, Jorge's faith is rooted in love for humanity, not personal disappointments. For Maria Elena, defending her brother went beyond loyalty. It was a matter of honoring the truth. The various controversies surrounding Jorge's name had hurt their family deeply, but Maria Elena remained resolute. I know who my brother is, she remarked firmly. He has always been a man of integrity and compassion. These stories can't change the fact that he has dedicated his life to helping others. Her candid statements provided rare glimpses into the convictions that have shaped Pope Francis's leadership, offering more personal insight into who he is, how he became the man he is today, and why Maria Elena continues to speak out against the misconceptions that plague his legacy. And though she has been notably quiet over the years, staying out of the spotlight, Maria Elena's courage to break her silence, particularly in defending her brother's integrity, has painted an important picture of the challenges Pope Francis faced both in the world and in his own family. Maria Elena Bergoglio, the youngest sibling of Pope Francis and his only surviving family member, had long preferred to keep her life in the shadows. She consciously avoided the public spotlight, respecting her brother Jorge's choice to step into a global role and live his life as a public figure. For years, Maria Elena chose silence, stepping back as her brother navigated the complex responsibilities of being a worldwide religious leader. Yet after Jorge became the Pope in 2013, rumors, accusations, and criticisms of him began to surface, compelling her to reconsider her quiet existence. It was a decision she would not make lightly. I had stayed quiet for years, respecting Jorge's choice to live a public life, while keeping my own private, Maria Elena said in one of her rare public appearances. But as his sister, I couldn't stand by and watch his name and character be dragged through the mud. I wanted people to see the real Jorge, not just as the Pope, but as a man who has suffered, struggled, and overcome. The swirling rumors and false narratives struck a deeply personal chord for Maria Elena. She had seen firsthand the kindness, dedication, and sacrifice Jorge had made in his life. Yet, in the face of public misunderstanding, she felt compelled to defend him. With her family's legacy at stake and her personal sense of justice in play, Maria Elena decided it was time to stand up and speak for her brother. "I know the man he is, and that's the one I want others to know," she stated firmly. For Maria Elena, defending Jorge was not just about protecting her brother, it was about revealing the truth, correcting misconceptions, and countering the distortions perpetuated by tabloids, gossip, and media sensationalism. As she stated in another interview, it was awful how the media was trying to shape her relationship with her brother. She added, "Jorge never seeks recognition, which is what made him so susceptible to these attacks. He's like Jesus, humble and calm. But that meekness often becomes a target for people who want to twist his integrity." Jorge's reluctance to speak out or defend himself made him even more of a target for his critics. Maria Elena, recognizing this, felt it was her personal duty to step in where needed, to give a voice to the man who had always treated her with compassion and protection. Breaking her silence was not easy. In fact, it was the opposite of what Maria Elena had always lived. She had spent the better part of her life avoiding media attention, preferring to stay out of the world's view. But with everything on the line, her family's reputation, her brother's honor, and the legacy they carried, she found herself not just compelled but resolute in her commitment to defending him. Breaking my silence wasn't just about defending Jorge against these lies. It was about standing up for our family's values, truth, humility, integrity, and love. I knew that by remaining silent, I wasn't just letting them tarnish Jorge's name. I was allowing his sacrifices to be erased and overshadowed by baseless rumors, Maria Elena shared. I had to remind people of who Jorge is, not just as Pope, but as the man I know, as the brother I grew up with. She also reflected on how Pope Francis, as a spiritual leader, didn't belong to their family alone anymore. "Jorge doesn't just belong to our family. He belongs to the church and the people," she pointed out. Her position as his sister was part of something much bigger, something that extended beyond familial connection into the heart of the church's mission. This is why she decided to speak out, not simply as a sister standing by her brother, but as someone who had shared a life with him and knew the depth of his character. Maria Elena said she could no longer allow misconceptions to cloud the larger truth of who Pope Francis truly was. At the same time, she admitted the emotional weight of her decisions. "It's hard to see someone you love criticized so harshly, especially when you know the truth," she confessed. "But my faith gives me strength, just as it gives Jorge strength. Together, we face these challenges with God's help." Breaking her silence wasn't easy, but the emotional release was necessary for her peace of mind. In some ways, Maria Elena felt that speaking out had lifted the weight of uncertainty off her shoulders. It wasn't about seeking glory or trying to take the spotlight. Rather, it was her quiet yet powerful declaration that her brother's sacrifices, his service to humanity, and his leadership had value beyond any rumors or headlines. "It's not just a story, it's ours too," she explained. With these words, Maria Elena reinforced the bond that had been forged not only by familial love but also by shared values, humility, faith, and personal sacrifice. Their relationship, while deeply personal, carried an intrinsic sense of significance for everyone around them. Maria Elena reflected on the deep silence that had been part of their connection since childhood. No grand gestures, no outward displays of affection. What has made this connection so surprising to others is precisely this quality. Despite the massive public role of Pope Francis, the relationship between him and his sister remains unaffected by his position, quiet in nature and fiercely protected. This simplicity contrasted greatly with the complex world that Jorge now inhabited as Pope, which has caused so many to take notice. Maria Elena shared vivid memories of their shared upbringing in a modest Buenos Aires home. As the youngest and oldest siblings among 5 children, they developed an incredibly close and uniquely strong bond. Maria Elena fondly remembers how Jorge, despite the differences in age, always took the time to read to her, offering not just stories but wisdom, teaching her the importance of compassion, humility, and biblical principles. "He wasn't just my brother, he was like a second father to me," Maria Elena reminisced. This early nurturing role shaped their connection and laid the groundwork for a sibling bond that withstood decades of physical distance, fame, and pressure. Even as Pope Francis became one of the most recognizable figures in the world, their bond never wavered. Despite the towering persona that came with being the Pope, Maria Elena always considered Jorge to be the man she grew up with, a brother who had protected her, guided her, and loved her unconditionally. "Even when life got hard, Jorge always found a way to protect and guide me," she shared. That deep affection and nurturing had laid a foundation for a relationship that survived the complexities of Jorge's position as the global leader of the Catholic Church. Maria Elena continued to emphasize that, for them, it wasn't the grandeur of his role that mattered most. It was the genuine humanity, humility, and love that had always defined him, despite the fame, the papacy, and the burdens of leadership. This relationship between Maria Elena and Jorge isn't marked by endless correspondence, nor is it framed by grand public gestures. Instead, it thrives in quiet moments, letters exchanged, fleeting conversations, or even a prayer shared across distances. Their mutual faith continues to strengthen their bond, a silent thread that sustains them despite the challenges that come with distance and fame. For Maria Elena, those small but significant moments speak volumes. "Sometimes a simple letter or a quiet prayer is enough to remind me that Jorge is thinking of me just as I am thinking of him," she said. That understated yet powerful relationship defies the complexities of their lives, offering a deep understanding that doesn't rely on constant communication but lives within the quiet space of shared faith, memories, and unconditional love. Maria Elena Bergoglio, the youngest sibling of Pope Francis, has spent most of her life carefully maintaining her distance from the public eye. This deliberate avoidance of the spotlight was part of her desire to preserve her privacy, particularly while her brother's extraordinary public role grew after his election to the papacy in 2013. Yet, as the Pope faced mounting rumors and fierce criticisms, particularly related to his past in Argentina and the increasing pressure from global media, Maria Elena felt a deep responsibility to break her silence and stand up for her brother, Jorge. While she had always respected Jorge's choice to embrace a public life, she could not continue to watch as his character was distorted, misrepresented, and unfairly attacked. It was painful for her to see her brother's name being dragged through the mud, and this frustration became the catalyst for her decision to speak out. In one of her rare interviews, Maria Elena explained that breaking her silence was an emotional and difficult choice, one that thrust her into an unfamiliar position. For years, she had kept her life private, honoring her brother's public persona, but as his sister, she could no longer stay silent. She reflected on how her brother's humility and tendency not to boast about his good deeds had made him an easy target for the media, tabloids, and critics. Pope Francis, who has been hailed for his compassion and gentle leadership, faced accusations of complicity during Argentina's brutal military dictatorship in the 1970s. This period of his past became a focal point for many who sought to tarnish his reputation. These allegations caused considerable pain and confusion for Maria Elena, as she knew them to be utterly false. For her, it was a deeply personal matter, one that misjudged not only her brother's actions, but his values and character. Despite the fear and hesitancy that came with public speaking, Maria Elena took it upon herself to clarify the misconceptions surrounding Jorge's actions during the military regime. While much of the world painted him as silent or complicit during those dark times, Maria Elena knew that her brother had worked discreetly to protect people, including fellow clergy, from harm. His silence, she explained, was a calculated strategy. Jorge knew that speaking out would have put many lives in jeopardy, so he made quiet, behind-the-scenes efforts to safeguard those at risk. Maria Elena firmly defended her brother's integrity and character, emphasizing that Jorge had always acted with the values of compassion and courage their parents instilled in them. In interviews, She described the pain of seeing their family's legacy questioned. Despite the media's fixation on scandalous rumors, Maria Elena remained steadfast, saying that her brother had never done anything to dishonor his upbringing or his faith. The weight of those criticisms, which sought to reduce Jorge's life to gossip and innuendo, was immense. Breaking her silence also became about reclaiming the narrative and ensuring that Jorge's true motivations and quiet heroism were known, particularly in relation to the long-standing rumors about why he joined the priesthood. Maria Elena vehemently refuted claims that her brother became a priest due to a failed romance, explaining that it was completely false and diminished the depth of Jorge's spiritual commitment. His calling to serve God and humanity came long before any romantic relationships. As a teenager, he had felt a profound spiritual pull. The fact that these rumors persisted caused Maria Elena distress, as it reduced her brother's decades of religious commitment to something trivial and insignificant, masking the true meaning of his life's journey. Maria Elena's act of defending her brother in the public sphere was not merely a loyalty-driven response, it was deeply tied to her faith. From their shared upbringing in a devout Catholic household, she understood the importance of standing up for the truth, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Pope Francis himself carries an enormous responsibility as the spiritual leader of over 1.3 billion Catholics, but through it all, Maria Elena offered him her unwavering support, while also understanding the sacrifice it took for Jorge to embrace his role. Her faith gave her the strength to persevere through all the pressures, challenges, and emotional burdens that came with defending him. Their relationship, despite physical distance, remained as strong as ever, sustained by shared beliefs and occasional handwritten letters, as Maria Elena confirmed that her brother still wrote to her often. These letters contained words of encouragement, love, and faith, reminders of their connection that transcended geographic separation. Her stories of their childhood offer poignant glimpses into the bond they shared, from playing together in their backyard to her brother being a guiding protector and father figure to her, especially as the family faced hardship. Maria Elena's voice brings to light a deeply human side of Pope Francis, a side often overlooked amid the grandeur of the papacy. Despite the millions of people who look to him for guidance, Maria Elena recalls her brother simply as Jorge, her sibling who held to the same values of humility and compassion they both learned growing up. These shared values, particularly their deep commitment to faith and service to others, helped form the foundation of their unique relationship. The simple, profound nature of their bond, built on faith, love, and trust, is what has captivated those who have learned about it. In today's world of spectacle and social media-driven relationships, the Boglio siblings' connection comes across as remarkable in its simplicity. Pope Francis may be the most powerful religious figure in the world, but he remains, in Maria Elena's eyes, her brother, someone who remains grounded and authentic, no matter the accolades or challenges he faces. Despite their different life paths, their bond endures, transcending fame, distance, and public pressure. For Maria Elena, defending her brother is about honoring the values they both hold dear: integrity, humility, and a sense of duty to God. It also reminds her of the lessons instilled by their parents, who taught them to uphold truth and stand by those who deserve to be defended. As a family, their spiritual partnership offers a powerful reminder of the significance of familial support, especially when one of them becomes an influential global leader. The personal sacrifice of breaking her silence has granted Maria Elena not only relief, but also the comfort of knowing that she has helped protect her brother's reputation. For her, Pope Francis' story is not just one of public achievements, but of human connection, deep-rooted faith, and love. Through her act of speaking out, Maria Elena's voice adds depth to the legacy of Pope Francis, highlighting the ways in which family, love, and sacrifice shape the lives of even the most public of figures.